Welcome back to another video. This video I'm going to do something completely different. I'm going to do a build series. The build series is going to be of, well, you probably clicked on the video so you know the title, but in case you don't, it's this guy, which is kind of hard to fit into the screen. Hopefully you can see that. It's the Trumpeter Mig-29SMT in 30-second scale. Looks like a great kit. Trumpeter released a few different variants of this guy. This is the latest one, the SMT. I do like the SMT, the humpback, and the camo. In like the greys, really kind of catches my eye. So I built a lot of small stuff recently, you know, a lot of 70-second scale, couple of items. I built the Firefly, rifle models Firefly, and the FXB-17. They're done, as you've seen in my previous videos, off the bench, so I thought, perfect time to start a new project. So I looked for my stash for something new, something different to do, and lo and behold, this one jumped out. So I kind of want to do something a little bit bigger so I can detail it. After doing all this for 70-second scale kits, and Mig-29 is not too bad. As you'll see, it's a pretty compact aircraft. The wingspan isn't very large and that kind of stuff, so it's not like it's a huge model. It's you know, it's probably about the same size as I'm looking over here at the bench. It's probably about the same size as a 48 scale Tomcat or something like that. It's not a big aircraft. So yeah, very excited about this. So I'm gonna do this one a little bit different to how most people on the internet do it. I'm not gonna film as I go along and do hours of footage. To be honest, I'm doing a online photo build of this. So what I'm going to do is every week or so, when I've got a few sections and some progress made, I'm going to share it with you guys, what I've done, and I'm going to show a lot more kind of still images. I think still images you can see a lot better detail than if I kind of show you kind of under the camera and lights and stuff. So what I'll do is I'll kind of keep it kind of punchy and brief. I'll show you the still images and kind of talk to what I've done, what products I've used, and go through there. So hopefully you find it interesting. Please put comments and put your feedback in the comments below. If you hate it, if you think it's a waste of time, let me know too. I'm not going to waste my time doing this. It takes quite time consuming as well to take the pictures and get them uploaded and stuff. So hopefully you find it interesting. So let's get started. So the first part, this is part number one, is going to be of the cockpit, and I'll pretty much take you through getting the cockpit painted and weathered and up installed, and the tub installed into the fuselage. And that's pretty much it for this part. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna switch my camera down and start sharing with you some my progress and kind of what I've done. Okay, so this is, I don't think you can see how well you can see it, but that's a tub on 3D video. Okay, it's gonna be hard if you can see it. Man, I'm gonna put some pictures up too, so you probably see better. That's where we pretty much got up to. So, excuse the scratches and stuff on here from the photo etch. I just recently put those on, and that's from the tweezers. I need to touch that bit up, but the rest of it's good to go. So where did I start? So I started with a tub. Let's go back through the instructions here. So I started with a cockpit tub, and I basically took several pieces off, dry fitted them, and did have some issues with some fitting parts. In particular, the sidewalls and some of the pieces back here, they just didn't want to go. Tolerances are just too tight. It looks like the hole was exact same, well, actually a little bit smaller than the actual tab going into it. So what I did was I took my trusty Trumpeter panel line scriber, or you could use a drill bit. I literally just stuck it in the hole, gave a little turn, and just made those holes a little bit bigger, and the parts fit perfectly then. So that's one kind of, a few things I find in this kit is a few little fit issues, nothing major, just need a little bit dry fitting and some tweaking here and there. So I did that, I got the parts together, you can see I dry fitted it, and the canopy the cockpit looked pretty good, nice detail. So then I did some reference, I looked online at some different reference stuff, and I saw that it was gray, not the usual kind of make turquoisey kind of color or green. So this, look at some colors. In the end, I went with this guy, which is Tamiya XF53 neutral gray. It seemed a pretty good gray. So first of all, I primed it as always with my favorite primer of choice, which is this guy. It's the Surface of Black 1500. I primed it, and then as I like to do, I like to lighten up and create some shading. So I use just generic like white paint. I think this time I used Model Air. So whatever white paint you have, once that's dried, I sprayed white paint and I set up panels in certain areas, just create some shading. And then I went on again with this XF53. what I did then was I took some other grays and did some shading, different shades, just kind of break it up a little bit. It did then kind of look a little bit more kind of greeny gray and not bluey gray as the reference pictures were. So I went back and added a little bit more of the XF53, just kind of make it a little bit more bluier. So I did that. That turned out pretty good. And then I started then with the detail work. Fortunately with this kit, it comes with some pretty decent decals for all the instrument panels and stuff. So I did paint the black, I did hand paint some of internal detail, but then I went ahead and just used the decals in the kit. So each part I put the decals on using my favorite method of micro set. So I put micro set down on the paint work, and then you add the decal on top of it. And then once it's kind of, give it 5 minutes or so, once it's kind of stuck down a little bit, I then go over with the red, which is micro sole. I kind of number it 1 and 2 because I always forget the order. So sole goes on afterwards, and that's the one that really kind of grips it to the kind of conforms it. So as you know, the cockpit is kind of has 3D instruments, 3D switches and stuff. So once you put a decal on and add this stuff, it really kind of pulls it down and grips it in, surrounds all. So you still see that 3D switches through it, which looks really cool. So decals went on. What else? And that was pretty much it for the main tub. So then put the tub together, weathered it. These are quickly becoming my favorite ways of weathering cockpits and small detail and stuff. Citadel washes. I mean, I really like these. So I have 3 colors. I have Agrax for Earth Shade, which is like a brown, a Flesh color, Reichland Flesh Shade, and Non Oil, the black, which is really cool. These are obviously for wargaming and stuff, but these work great. So I pretty much weathered the inside of the cockpit using, I think I used Agrax Earth Shade start with, and then Non Oil, some bits back here, some more darker areas. Okay, sorry if I was going to sneeze, excuse me. So that's kind of got the cockpit together. One thing I should have said too is the only aftermarket I've used are the Quick Boost resin seat, and I'm going to use the Master Metal Pitot tube. Everything else is out of the box pretty much thus far. So the seat was a huge improvement. The kit seat isn't very good. Actually, if I think I have the sprue right. And that's the harnesses. I mean, that's night and day. That's not, for 30-second scale, that's not going to cut it for me. So as always, on the resin seat, and it's just so much extra detail. The Quick Boost seat with the resin with the seatbelts molded in. 30-second scale, I'd rather go fabric seatbelts or go. I like this better than using the photo etch. The photo etch can be a little tricky, and because it bends and it kind of cracks, and like here you see like the the brass come through and stuff. So yeah, really happy how it turned out. So I painted the seat. Well, first of all, I put it all together as a all resin, wear a mask when I sanded it down and got it all together, glued it together, and then I again primed it with Mr. Surfacer, and then I painted with I actually found a Mr. Surfacer was a really good color for the just off the bat was a really good color for the seat. So I kind of left it as is, but for the seat parts, which are more like a rubber kind of color, it's a hand painted Model Air. This is Panzer Aces color 306 dark rubber. So I found that really good. So I painted the actual seat pads with this, and picked up a few other little details and whatnots. The seat belts were a little tricky. I used pale gray, I think, and then I went to buff and a few other colors, basically custom mixes. I just basically mixed different things and painted seat belts. The buckles were painted with aluminum, Model M aluminum, hand painted. And then what I did for the wash for the seat belts was I used the flesh color. So I used a little bit of the Reichland flesh shade for the seat belts. Yeah, and then basically the stick and the HOTAS was basically just, I picked out the little white buttons with a cocktail stick, just dipped in some white paint. Again, I used Citadel white paint because that's really good for hand painting, and you're not going to see inside there, but hopefully in the pictures you can see it too. But I picked out little dots with a cocktail stick, just find it a little bit easier. So basically just dip it in your paint, take the excess off, and just pick out the buttons. It's way easier than use the brush and heater. So that's what I did for that. So the seat went in. And that was pretty much built. Gave it a clear coat, XF86, matte clear coat over the whole thing. And then the tub was installed, went in no problems. Used some super glue to keep it in, CA glue. Oh, this is getting old now, it's kind of manky. A little drop left in the bottom, but the medium Zappa gap. So yep, glued that in, and then the top shroud. That again, I really like the Mr. Servicer color off the bat. Get a nice kind of texture and color, so I just kept that for the front part here. The shrouds I went NATO black, LP60. We can just use XF85. Sorry, I think NATO is no, that's rubber black. NATO black is, I don't remember, 60 something, but they do it in XF as well. But I used LP60. If you notice my tins have a T on it, it just means they're thinned. Some tins, when I got a little bit down, I like to just pre-mix it, makes it easier and cleaner. So I just add the thinner and mix it, and these are already thinned. Some aren't thin, so the T just lets me know it's already thin, so I don't make it too thin. So yeah, that was the color for the shrouds. And also this kind of conduit kind of pipe around the front here. I went for this as well, just to get a little bit of tonal difference, different type shade of black, just, you know, pick it out a little bit. I have no idea what color that is in real life. The instructions don't give a call out. I searched the net, searched other pictures, just the position of it right there behind the canopy, front canopy. You don't see it, so I have no idea what color it is, if it's silver or whatever. My assumption is all this stuff is kind of black because of the glare for the sun and everything, so I'm assuming that's kind of some kind of black too. So I just went with a NATO black, like I mentioned, just to give it a slight shade off from the rest. And that's where we're at with the cockpit, really. The cockpit's pretty much done. The HUD's got to go in. I'm going to do it obviously very last minute because it's going to break off without the canopy on. So that's photo etch, which is quite a nice touch too. So I need to touch that up, add the HUD. There's a clear part that goes in there. And there's a clear part to go back here too, which I need to add. Now I've clear coated, I can add this in as well. So yeah, really good fit. Kind of happy how it goes. The only thing I'd notice is, I mean, you can kind of notice, but the instrument panel's not quite straight. Everything's flush, it's in perfectly correct, but it just looks like it's a little crooked. Ever so like maybe a mil or so, kind of too low on the left side. Oh, I'll just knock the shroud off. I'm not sure, but anyway, so yeah, so it looks really cool. Anyway, I'm happy how it turned out. That's, you know, a lot of detail painting in there. Being 32nd scale, you kind of really see in there too. So that's the cockpit tub. Then I started doing a few other bits. Moving on, I had the photo etch. There's two on each side, and there's one of these guys on the wing. Look like some kind of like slide lines, probably. I use something I normally use CA glue, but I did something I've had in my stash forever, and I never really used it, or never really got on with it, and it actually worked great. So I used a Gator glue thin blend for photo etch, thinner, and it worked really well. It's basically like a PVA glue. Just dabbed a little bit on the back of each of the metal parts and stuck them on, and so far they seem pretty good. They didn't ping off yet, but I've had this forever. I just never really used it, but I don't know why. I think it's one of those things where I bought a few years ago. Now my skills are going to get a little better. I'm doing a little bit more advanced stuff. Some of these things kind of, they're coming into use now. And another thing I never used, I've had this for probably 3 or 4 years in my toolbox. Tamiya Diamond File number 400. I never ever use this. I don't know why. So for the photo etch, where you cut it off and you have little tabs, just a couple of rubs with this and it really makes it smooth and sounds it really well. Again, I've no idea why I never used this before, but I pulled it out for this build and actually worked really good. So I'll be definitely using this a lot more in the future. So that's where we're at with that. And the last thing to tell you about are the intakes. So you get two options. You get closed or open. I went open just to give it a little bit more visual appeal. This wasn't a very good fit at all, to be honest with you. You see there's a few lines that need to take care of later. It was the piece. It was, again, like with the cockpit, it was a little bit too big to fit in the hole. So I had to kind of sand a little bit off the back and sand a little bit along here. Well, actually quite a lot. Quite a few swipes of the sanding stick. I just keep dry fitting it to get it to fit. It was just too big to go in there. But I think it looks okay on the other side. Same with this one too. It's just along here. This part just needed some sanding and a little bit at the back too. Just get it. It's just a little bit too long and maybe like a mil too wide. A little disappointing. So anyway, so that's in. Next part asks for a few lumps and bumps and stuff. We'll see if they're bigger lumps and bumps. I'll go ahead and put them in now. If they're kind of little, drop some dust off. If they're little tiny things. I might just wait to the very end. I don't want to break them off during the build. And also with this pattern, there'll be a lot of masking because I'm doing splinter camo, obviously, so a lot of straight line masking. One thing I do notice is I need to take care of on the wings here. You can see the molding. There's a couple of raised parts for the ejection pins. Just need to be taken care of, like sanded down off the top. But yeah, really nice overall, really nice detail on this. Nice panel lines, nice rivet detail. Yeah, and I really had a blast doing that cockpit. It was a lot of fun. After doing 70-second scale, actually going to 30-second and being able to like pick out individual buttons and do some details, it was really a blast. So really enjoyed that. So that pretty much sums up this part and where I'm at with this first part of the build. Next part, we're going to get on to more of like adding stuff to this, probably the intakes, and then start, I think, lower well, I think on landing gear bays, front gear. That's going to be interesting too. I've looked ahead on instructions and around, so number 6, there's actually next part, number 7 is the lower, it's the front gear. There you go. So normally with all this stuff, I build separately. At the very end, I add it. I don't want to break it off. But looks like in the instructions here, it tells you you got to add the main gear to the sidewalls. And then it goes in. So I'm going to obviously do some test fitting and dry fitting and stuff and see if I can get away with building this and if that can clip in afterwards, which I'm hoping. Fingers crossed I can get this in, clip in afterwards once I've built it, and this can go in, and so I can get the fuselage halves together. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And then again, working on gear and working away along the build. But yeah, so far it's a really nice kit. Yeah, it's good size. You can see on the cutting mat, it's not tiny, but by no means it's not huge for 30-second scale. It's pretty reasonable. If I hold it up against my cutting mat here, I'm trying to see what the inches are. I got centimeters on here. On this, excuse the mess on the other side, it is about, probably with the nose, it's going to be about 17 inches long, or maybe a bit longer, maybe about 17, 18 inches long, and wide about 14.5, 15 inches. It's a good size. One thing I didn't mention is I'm going to do it with canopy up. The engines come quite beautifully detailed, 2 engines, so I'm going to do 1 engine in, and my plan is to do 1 engine out. Depending on how it looks in here, I might have to add some detail, but I want to do 1 engine out on a dolly next to it. Also, I saw in Reed Oak, which is one of my favorite places for resin figures, they do some quite nice figures. A couple have caught my eye. One is like a Russian guy, like it, with a camera taking a picture, and then they do some pilots, and they also do some helmets. So what I kind of thinking is maybe I'll do a helmet that's like maybe sat kind of side of the cockpit right here, because it's 30-second scale, you're really gonna see the details. So I might do a helmet, and I might do a guy kind of standing next to it with a camera, just kind of taking a picture of the aircraft. I really just like putting people next to the aircraft, just give it a scale effect, whatever scale it is. It just really, I think it really just sets it up, a nice base, and then just 1 or 2 figures, ground crew figures or pilot figures, just kind of seeing the idea of how big this thing is next to a person, really. All right, so that's part 1 in the bag, like what the first 6 parts of the instructions or whatever. So hopefully found that interesting. It's coming on pretty nicely, as I mentioned in the video. It's not a Tamiya kit. It's not falling apart. There's a little bit problems with some fit issues, but just tiny. Just a couple of just really dry fitting and sanding down. A couple of swipes of sanding stick just makes a huge difference. It looks great. The service detail looks great. I'm kind of very excited to get going on this. Do some more. So stay tuned for the next part, maybe in a week or 2, where we start working on the upper fuselage and maybe start the engines too. And I apologize, but it's like my cat started scratching the carpet and sneezing in the background too. So there you go. I guess it's a good time to stop the video. So till next time, have a good one. See you. Bye.